Hi, Alex. Welcome to Founders Tales. Do you want to give everyone just a quick introduction to yourself and your business, Bay State Energy?
Yeah, my name is Alexander Urbanski from Chicago, Illinois. Our company, Bay State Energy, is working on a new power conversion system for nuclear microreactors.
And what was the problem that first sparked the idea for the company?
So the first problem was the problems the world is facing. We kind of started 2 years ago at Boston University, just writing on a whiteboard just a bunch of challenges the world's going to face in the next 10, 20, 50 years. And then kind of filtered down to address climate change, growing energy demands. We're going to need to develop nuclear power rapidly. And there's a lot of huge barriers to entry to nuclear. It usually requires these mega projects take like 15 years, 15 billion in capital. So with microreactors, the goal is like, let's make a factory where we could be churning out like 100 microreactors per year that costs less than 20 million per unit to lower these barriers to entry. So to enable this, we looked at the power cycle side of things. So you're getting a heat source from the nuclear reactor and you want to convert this to electricity. And as we're scaling down these systems, it really changes the dynamics a lot. So there's an opportunity to rethink the way we create nuclear energy and convert it. So we came up with the approach of using solid state conversion rather than using all these mechanical subsystems, which contribute a lot of weight. It makes up around like 70% of the total microreactor weight, potentially, these huge turbine systems. So came up with a way to cut weight by 90%, cost by 60% for the conversion system.
Yeah, brilliant. And what's the one thing you thought you knew about building out a startup that turned out to be completely wrong?
You would think you could have a good idea and like people might be more receptive of it. But a lot of people will tell you you're wrong, even if it does end up being a good idea in the end. Also, the timing plays such a huge role. Like you can have a great idea and people can praise it, but if you're not timing it well, it's going to fail, which is something we're struggling with at the moment. Is the timing of things. Like this microreactor industry is pretty new. It's about 6 years or so there's been serious development, and the developers don't really care about improving the system. They're just trying to get to the first prototype as quick as possible, regardless of how expensive it is. So there has to be kind of a delay in our timing of when we approach these developers.
Yeah. And you and your co-founder both don't come from a nuclear engineering background. So do you want to share kind of a bit about the technical learning curve that you guys have gone through?
Yeah, so my background is in physics and computer science primarily, and my co-founder, Buck Dolet, his background was in economics and engineering. When we first came across this interest to somehow innovate the nuclear microreactor, just had to read a bunch of nuclear engineering textbooks, watch all these MIT lectures, and the best way is speaking to people. You have a question, you can read through hundreds of pages of a textbook to find the answer, or you can just ask people who are experts in this field and they'll concisely answer your questions. So there's a lot of outreach to PhD nuclear engineering students at MIT and some other universities that really helped us to understand things.
Yeah, a lot of proactive learning, basically.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And how did you guys convince your first advisor to believe in your vision for the business?
Yeah, there's a lot of failed convincing attempts before actually persuading someone. A first advisor was a friend, so we kind of already had a relationship. This guy from the DOE, which helps a lot. You know, it's a big barrier to entry. You don't know the person you're trying to seek advisory from. I guess the way we convinced them, just sharing the idea. I mean, the idea was convincing in itself.
Yep. Cool. And how do you guys spot startup DNA within your hiring methodologies?
Yeah, that's something that's very tricky to look for. The best way is to hire people you know already, even if they don't necessarily have the proper startup DNA. It's something that can be influenced over time. It's a matter of just finding people who have the right talents and making sure they have the ability to learn. But that's the biggest thing, their ability to learn and their curiosity. If they have that, then you can kind of train and cultivate them to do anything.
Yep. And when you were starting the business in Boston, were there any local mentors, resources, or meetups, etc., that proved to be useful for you guys?
Yeah, the BU Innovation Center helped us a lot with connecting to advisors, and the BU Law Center also helped us a lot with the IP side of things. And there's a lot of like networking events, Greentown Labs, all these kind of startup competitions as well, like the MIT Climate and Energy Prize. These helped us a lot in the early days.
Yeah. And were there any additional advantages that you think are kind of specific to Boston, building out a business in Boston versus maybe, West Coast or New York?
Yeah, I mean, the university infrastructure is incomparable to any other city. I think there's around 70 universities in the greater Boston area. So regardless of the idea you have, there will be an expert in that field that you can reach out to that's, within reach from a train. That's probably the greatest thing about building in Boston.
Yeah. And in terms of advice, what's the best piece of advice you've received from another founder?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, we were talking to a guy who's a former founder of a LiDAR company, and he now runs a VC in the Boston area. And he told us that, when it comes to pitching to investors or advisors, the main thing is to clearly and concisely convey the idea with excitement. And it's very simple, but it's much harder to actually implement than you can think. And, we've heard a lot of pitches at these competitions where people will just kind of ramble on about things. And we definitely did that in the early days as well. So, having that focus to really, get your pitch down in a very concise manner.
Yeah, particularly more prevalent for you guys as well, because you're dealing with quite an advanced engineering concept as well, right?
Yeah, you really got to cater the pitch to your audience. And most of our team, we had a background in like teaching, and it was just like teaching like middle school math, these kind of things. But that really helps a lot when pitching. Yeah,
brilliant. And then finally, particularly as you're building the business whilst you're also still studying, how do you personally stay motivated when it comes to dealing with the highs and lows of building out your own startup?
Yeah, I mean, just trying as best as you can to live a healthy lifestyle. If you're taking care of your body well and making sure you take time to, see family and friends, it'll improve the quality of your work drastically. It's really not that beneficial to like chug a few Celsius and stay up all night working. From time to time, that can be beneficial. If you have some deadlines to meet, it's pretty fun to do that with the team. but definitely not too often. Just prioritizing your mental and spiritual and physical well-being.
Yeah, tap into those things that give you positive energy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate you joining today and sharing your story today. And best of luck for yourself and Bay State Energy moving forward.
All right. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.